welcome to this exclusive experience networking event hosted by eSAX. I'm very pleased that our guest today is Michael Wood. And without further ado, I'm going to read his short bio. Michael Wood's experiences history as a touring musician for 10 years. Retiring from playing professionally in 2007, Mike Wood moved on to operate a music management and marketing company that partnered with Universal Music for distribution until 2010. In 2007, he also started teaching music industry arts at Algonquin College, where he's still a professor today. Michael Wood has won a 40 under 40 in Ottawa from the Ottawa Board of Trade, while also named one of Ottawa's top 50 most influential people by Ottawa Life magazine. He was awarded a top 10 under 40 by the Canadian Rental Association in 2013 and is a voting member for both the Grammy and Juno Awards. Michael Wood was the American Idol insider for various Fox affiliates, the music industry analyst for Canada AM and other media. One of the highlights of his career was being awarded a Capital Educators Award in Ottawa in 2013 for being one of the top 16 high school, college, or university professors. Michael Wood is also the co-founder and managing partner at Ottawa Special Events, which is the only one-stop shop for all event production rentals in Ottawa. He's now working day and night to support Ottawa small business as they fight to survive by speaking to entrepreneurs and all levels of government from every political party. At this time, I'd like to welcome Michael Wood to the stage.
Thanks for having me here tonight, Jared.
Hello, Michael Wood. So it's a pleasure to have you on here. And, you know, when we talk about what businesses are doing for COVID, I think most people in Ottawa can agree you're the one that comes to mind.
Well, that's very sweet of you. I'm trying, man. It's been a crazy time for all of us. And, you know, I've seen some familiar faces sitting at these tables. I see that my friend Rick Smith is sitting there, and Abdi and I were just chatting quickly before we went into presentation mode. So actually, we were chatting about Mona Fortier because I chatted with Mona's office today. And I think Minister Fortier and I are going to have another conversation next week because there are some challenges ahead.
I'm going to take myself off stage. Mike, if you'd like to chat a few minutes about who you are and what you're doing, take it from there.
Sure, that'd be great. So a lot of people have asked me sort of, you know, how I got this deep in with the government. And if you follow me on Facebook, you'll see that probably a week and a half ago, I had a drone follow me down a residential street when I was out for a walk, and I cracked a joke that there was going to be no more government lobbying for a little bit. But so mid-March, I had this unsettled feeling that the government was going to shut the country down. I just had this weird feeling. I kind of saw the writing on the wall. So I sent a message to City Councilor Keith Egli. Keith and I are friends. And I said, so Keith, what do I do? And I said, I think the government's going to shut us all down. And he said, what you have to do is you have to start sending letters to your MPs and your MPPs. So that night, I sent a letter to Catherine McKenna, who's the Minister of Infrastructure for Canada, for the Liberal Party of Canada. And I sent a note to Lisa MacLeod. And one other, I can't remember who it was. And almost immediately, Catherine McKenna's office got back to me asking for a little bit more information, what I wanted to talk about. And so I sent it, and they got back to me and said, great, Minister McKenna will meet with you for 30 minutes. And I thought to myself, like, wow, that's pretty cool. I've got a federal minister that's willing to meet with me. And kind of view Catherine McKenna as number 4 in the country, right? You've got Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland, Bill Morneau, and Catherine McKenna. So we met. At that time, the wage subsidy was 10%, and Europe was doing it at 75%. So I'd expressed some concern that 10% was nowhere close to being enough. And I think for zero revenue businesses like mine, even if my payroll is about $90,000 a month, so even if it was at 10% or 90% for that matter, I still can't afford to pay $9,000 a month when I'm zero revenue. So I'd reached out to Mona Fortier's office at that point, and they got back to me and they said, Minister Fortier will meet with you. And I'm like, wow, I'm on a bit of a roll here. I reached out to Pierre Poilievre because he's the MP for where I live. And I got a message back saying Pierre wants to call you and have a private conversation for 20 minutes. So I did that, and then Marie-France Lalonde agreed to meet with me, for those of you that live in the East End. And so then it just started to snowball. So Pierre Poilievre's office came back to me. They asked me if I'd be willing to testify before the Standing Committee on Finance for the House of Commons. So I did testify from this very spot at home before the House of Commons. And from there, through LinkedIn, I know Jared knows I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I reached out to the Chief of Staff to Bill Morneau, a fellow named Elder Marquez, who you can find on LinkedIn. And I sent him a note saying, hey, you know, I'm looking to meet with you if possible. So he actually responded through LinkedIn, and I was very surprised. Now I'm not surprised by anything. The government is truly working hard at this. I have definite examples of this, trying to solve the problem. So, anyways, I met with Sean Fraser and Jan Fouché, who's Bill Morneau's parliamentary secretary, and Jan Fouché is his senior policy advisor. So we were talking about the CEBA loan, we were talking about SECRA and the rent program and so on. So from there, I met with Prabmeet Sakaria, who's the Minister of Small Business for Ontario. I met with him twice now. And just last week, they invited me to testify before Queen's Park about the situation that small businesses in August. And I'll put this out to you as well. The deadline to apply for that is Friday. But if you want to do it, if you're a small business owner and you want to do it, then if you apply, I will take that application number that you get and I will present that to the minister, and I can probably get you an opportunity to do this. And then, you know, it's just kind of snowballed from there. I met with James Cumming, who is the critic to Mary Ng of small business, and he used to be the president of the Chamber of Commerce for Edmonton. I met with Wayne Easter, who is the chairman of the Standing Committee on Finance. And it's just kind of growing from there. And I'd reached out to the PMO's office, and I was asking for a meeting with Katie Telford, who is Justin's chief of staff. And she wrote me back saying that Katie was probably, you know, too busy to have that meeting, which I understood. But she said, I'd like to connect you with the regional advisor for all of Ontario to Justin. So that's a guy named Jeff Valois. He's on LinkedIn as well too. So I ended up meeting with Jeff Valois last Friday for 40 minutes. So it's, you know, for me, I like it, the fact that the government's responsive and that you've got Justin Trudeau's right-hand advisor for Ontario willing to have a conversation. And it's funny, I was speaking to someone right before this. I had one question for him this afternoon. I sent Jeff a text. Jeff had made it very clear that I had his cell phone now and I could text him about whatever or call him anytime. So I sent him a text with a quick question, and he got back to me in 10 minutes. He's like, hey, I'll look into it and I'll get back to you ASAP. So, you know, I never viewed myself as a political guy. For people that know me, Rick Smith is on here. He's known me for a long time. I'm like 1992 Axl Rose. Either you like me or you hate me, and I can be all over the place. But, you know, I'm just trying to do the best that I can, and I'm here to support anybody that needs it.
Right, Mike, you're doing an absolutely fabulous job. I mean, all levels of government, all political parties.
At this? Like this chat we're having, or just in general?
Oh, you're doing a great job tonight too. But I mean, for promoting an entrepreneurship and helping people stay alive and giving people hope. We have a question from Simi Silver. Apparently, Simi doesn't qualify for either SECRA or the wage subsidy. Would you be aware if there's another way to qualify for something?
Yeah, so, you know, that's the million-dollar question, right? So the government, I will tell everybody this, has said to me many times, they know that there's a major problem. They know that some people don't qualify. Simi, if you want to write in the chat here and I can see it, I guess my question is, where don't you qualify? Because they have made some changes. And Jared, the crazy thing is the SECRA program is they've made it they made it so that the landlord has to apply, and not everybody's doing that. And I've got a friend of mine that owns a Subway in a mall, and their landlord's not doing the program. So Simi, what's the reason, if you don't mind? Just, I see that you said you might give me, so that's cool. Sorry about that. But if you want to just let us know what's going on. So I am the landlord and the tenant. My bookkeeper said so. Okay, cool. Well, you know what? In order to answer these questions, I probably need a little bit more information. So you're more than welcome. Maybe we can meet in one of these rooms and we can have a little bit of a further conversation about it tonight. Because I've got lots of questions for you. So we can try and figure out what's available.
We have a question from Brent Manuel. What does a nonprofit organization qualify for during COVID? Because Brent volunteers for one.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'll ask Brent Manuel this question if you're related to Brandon Manuel, who worked at Ottawa Special Events and still does, but unfortunately just laid off temporarily. But the not-for-profit situation is interesting. Truthfully, I haven't looked that closely at it. I've been looking specifically at for-profit organizations. I have a friend, Beth Servant, who does run a not-for-profit, and I know that she did qualify for at least the rent program. I just know that from trying to get her land. I helped her to try and get her landlord to participate in it. So,
well, I mean, talking about landlords, Mike, I mean, yes, the government's encouraging landlords to apply for the subsidy, but not all of them have been doing that. And do you think it's landlords are playing hardball? What could they possibly benefit from that?
So I think it's short-sighted, the ones that aren't participating. It's an interesting thing because when I was talking to one of the politicians, which will remain nameless, there was quite a few expletives used over the situation that they were using as to why the landlords wouldn't participate. And here's the thing is the government looked at it this way. So the tenant pays 25%, which is still a hard situation. I know one company in particular that's we are zero revenue. I cannot pay 25%. And then on the flip side of that, the province is paying 25%, forgivable. The landlord doesn't have to pay it back. The feds are paying 25%, forgivable. And the idea was that 25% hit that the landlord was going to take was their profit margin. And I think the best way to look at it, people want to go back in history and time and take a look. In 2009, the Harper government bailed out the automotive industry, and they bailed out Ford and GM and so on. And the reason they did that, it was to save the supply chain, and from everybody from the parts to the garages to the car dealers, everybody. And so that's essentially what this federal government has done with the ZECRA program, or tried to do. It is the bane of existence for the federal government right now. Truthfully, they're very frustrated that not all landlords are willing to take them up on this.
Yeah, actually, there's a message from Natalie Peterman. She said the ZECRA program's not working. It really needs a tune-up. For instance, she has 3 landlords today mentioned that they're not doing the 25% for July. And she
right.
Had another question, is if someone told me I would only be down 25% for April, May, and June, then super happy. Everything's fine with that. But the fact that landlords take a loss of only 25% is a gift. She really wishes that landlords, the government, would have stepped up more.
For sure. And Allie and I know each other, and we were chatting. The biggest problem right now, truthfully, is contract law, right? So there is a contract law. And when this first started, I met with the president of the Commercial Landlord Association in Ottawa. And he sent me a message. He wanted him to chat with me. And I was like, what have I done now, right? But, he said, he goes, any landlord that's not willing to participate is being short-sighted. Because what's going to end up happening if there is this mass exodus that we are seeing and people working from home and continuing to work from home, there's going to be so many vacancies. Then you get tenant improvement. What's going to happen is the price of rent is going to fall through the floor. And so your best, and in any situation, I've always done my best in this, you're always best to try and work with any situation at hand, whether it's the best one for you at the moment, everything happens for a reason, and try and do it. But yeah, I feel for Natalie, she's got like a real problem with her landlords.
Right. I mean, Mike, for those of us who are in the hospitality industry, I know, you do events and can you put your crystal ball in and think, are people going to be starting booking again in January? Like, do you think there's a timeline that could be set, or?
So I read an article today, I guess, that the Ontario government's going to extend the emergency, whatever you call it, the state of emergency, potentially up till 2021, or at least have the option to kind of go month to month with it, right? And I know that Christine Elliott, who's the health minister for Ontario, was asked if they were going to allow for larger gatherings of more than 10, and she said no, not until at least phase 3. So I really, unfortunately, Jared, because I know that you're in this business too, you have some of the best live networking events in Ottawa, and your music with Sax Appeal, but I just don't know or see when it's going to come back. So
right. And people are talking about pivoting their business model or doing something, a side hustle, or just try to keep the lights on. Like, what would you say to somebody who, let's say that their job is up in the air or non-existent, they're relying on CERB to make ends meet? Should they be trying to find other ways to make income, or just rely on CERB?
Okay, so there's a couple different things here. Number one, you and I have spoken about this. The whole thing should have been on a sliding scale, right? So the government and this is one of the things I bring up all the time. Like, you guys should have had this on a sliding scale, because if at 68% down, all of a sudden you don't qualify for all of these programs by 0.5% or whatever. I've got a friend that owns a franchise, a beauty franchise down at the Rideau Center, and everybody's hiding their numbers now, right? And show me one business over the next X amount of time that's going to show a profit. And I said that to Jeff Valois the other day. So all these businesses are going to now, nobody's going to show a profit anymore, so they can't be taxed. So the sliding scale is huge, and it's the other thing too, Jared. Like, the same guy that owns his beauty spot owns a Boston Pizza, and he's talking now, and he's pushing the 17-hour work week as a crisis situation. So I think you were on that call when he was talking about it.
Yeah, that's the golden number, 17. 17
is the golden number. So anybody making minimum wage is not willing to work more than 17 hours a week, because 17 times 14 is 238 times 4, I think, comes out to 958 or something along that line, just below 978, just below the $1,000. And they're just saying, I'm just going to call in sick, and you can't fire me for calling in sick. So, that system has put the business owner in a precarious situation. So, listen, I'm not here to complain about what they've done. I think what ended up happening was they saw the crisis at hand. They said, we better unload a plan and a program to help save people. But now that I don't want to say things are recovered, because that's another thing that drives me crazy, that everybody's talking about this recovery. I'm like, I don't know who is recovering. But the thing is that the now that we've got some businesses starting to open, we need the government to reevaluate some of these plans. And I think now at Bill Morneau's office, they took a snapshot. It's the first time we're $1 trillion in debt as a country. And that's not just from this. This is just what's added on to our existing debt. But now I think we look at, okay, we've saved X amount, so how do we move forward and protect everybody in a fiscal fashion?
Right. I mean, talking about protecting people, the city of Ottawa recently announced a bylaw, which I think is only going to be ratified at the next council meeting, about mandatory masks. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah. So here's I met with Leslie Roberts on CFR the other day about this. Here's the thing. If the mask helps, then I get it. Totally get it. But here's the issue is that somebody's saying, well, one, it's private property. So there could be any reason why I don't want to let you into my business, right? Whatever reason that is. But at the same time too, if that one person or if people aren't wearing them and it does help and it spikes and they have to shut us all down again, I'm not willing to risk that over one person. We all have a responsibility to each other and to our neighbors' businesses and livelihoods and all of this. Let's just try and be responsible and do the right thing.
Right. And Natalie has a good point. She's like, now's the time to review, the reset, the regroup, look at the programs that are working or not working, tweak them. Because as we all know, the government pushed through these emergency measures probably in record time. It's never been done before. It probably takes 2 years to launch.
Guns blazing.
Yeah.
They were working the private sector range there for a minute.
For a minute.
Yeah, for a minute.
Great call, Suzanne. Hats off to the government. It's time for a review. Natalie had another question spot on, Mike. Wear masks, spare the second wave if it comes.
And that's all I think everybody's trying to do. So, yesterday I went to the Independent and there was a little bit of disappointment being expressed from a customer going in, not wearing a mask. And by a little bit of this disappointment, I mean, it was pretty intense for a minute, but I don't need those people because even though I'm zero revenue, I would rather be in a situation where we completely remove COVID from our environment and that we can all continue to function and try and make a living.
Absolutely. So Suzanne Seev, welcome. If you have a question, please introduce yourself quickly.
Hi, Suzanne Seev from Serious Connections. Hi, Mike. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you. And thanks for all your feedback tonight. I wanted your opinion, and I know everyone is pivoting as much as possible. What do you think of the theaters that they're doing, the outdoor theater? Zippy is doing the drive-ins and the Blues Fest. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, for sure. And I get a lot of calls actually running Ottawa Special Events, people looking to do this, but and I get it. They're going to do it in their cars, and then Lansdowne did it. I think something's happening out at West of Clover, and but I think at the same time too, people have to remain in their cars. I don't know how that's going to totally work. And then what are we going to do for washrooms, and so on, and so I think if we're going to be doing that type of thing, we just have to make sure that all precautions are taken and that people are respectful. And I don't want to turn people away from my business, but if they're not going to be respectful and try and do the right thing in theory, then I don't really need them as a customer almost.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I wanted to let you know that I support you 150%, and thank you for reaching out to all the ministers as we're doing that. As you know, the project that we're working on, and we're looking forward to helping to solve that global solution out there. And just want to take a moment and say thank you, and look forward to having that conversation.
You're too kind. And Suzanne, anytime that you see something's happening, I try and post it on Facebook as much as possible. Join us. Ask your questions. If you're interested in testifying before Queen's Park, just reach out and we'll try and get you in there.
Well, we've got something. We'll be talking to you, Mike, because you'll probably be in the media in about 10 days from now, and you don't even know it. Front page.
What have I done?
We'll talk to you after.
Oh dear.
It's all positive. It's all positive.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. So I'll take you off the stage now.
Thank you.
Mike, do you have any closing thoughts about where we're currently at and maybe what the next steps are for entrepreneurs?
Sure. So my closing remarks, I've said this quite a few times at various things, is that if you've never been involved before, it's never too late to start. And there's been a lot of times, as much as I've had a lot of, we'll call it success, in reaching these ministers, and them agreeing to meet with me and so on and so forth. I've had my days where I'm just like, I don't know how much more I can do. And then you kind of go to bed and you realize, okay, you get up in the morning, but I gotta keep going now. So like, don't get too discouraged, but if you do get discouraged, you're not alone. I've been discouraged. I'm gonna speak for somebody right now. I'm sure she'll kill me later, but Natalie Pierman, I know that you've been discouraged once or twice along the way too with everything that's going on. And so, and Jared, I'm sure you have too. But the thing is that every storm runs out of rain. I hope this one runs out sooner than later. It's been raining for 4 months straight on all of us. And we're ready for change. We're ready for progress. And we're ready for phase 3, I think, just as a society and as a community. And I'm doing everything I can to make that happen. And if anybody wants to join me along the way, you're more than welcome.
Well, Mike, you're doing some great things for the city and for entrepreneurs in general. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you on behalf of everybody on the call and for the city to keep doing what you're doing. You're doing some great work, shedding some light on some of the major issues that many of us are facing, or even those, you're speaking up for small business. And I think that's what we're all looking for. And, now everybody talks about entrepreneurship as, being this grand thing. We pivot fast, we could change direction, and we're forward thinkers. Now more than ever, it's pushing our gumption to make ends meet and do something different. And it might even encourage a new wave, the good wave, of entrepreneurship. Not only in the city, but perhaps all of the world, and who knows what's going to come with that. So, Mike, thanks again. Michael Wood from Ottawa Special Events and the small business champion during COVID.
Thanks, Jared. I really appreciate it.